With 54 million people, they are the largest and most diverse minority in the country. That's 20% of all American citizens, 1 in 5. And it's not who you might think it is. It's not African Americans, it's not Hispanics, it's not the elderly. The largest minority in the U.S. is the population of people with disabilities. We're talking about your parents and children, your friends and neighbors, your coworkers.
Because I sit in a wheelchair, or because somebody is physically disabled in some way, doesn't mean that we want to be treated differently from anybody else. And I think the main thing that people tend to do is they tend to shy away from people with disabilities because they don't know how to treat us. They think that they're uncomfortable walking up to us and getting to know us, and I think that it is very important for other people to feel comfortable around people with disabilities and to get to know people with disabilities and to not treat us any different than anyone else, because we aren't different. Physically, we are, but we're just like anybody else.
Disability does not discriminate. People from every race and economic level are affected. But people with disabilities have suffered from persistent discrimination throughout our nation's history. In employment, education, transportation, public accommodations, health services, communication, recreation, and access to public services. One of the most damaging discriminatory practices routinely directed at people with disabilities has been their exclusion. From larger society, from their own communities, often from their own families.
To exclude someone, whether it's somebody with a disability or somebody of a different race or, has different religious beliefs or whatever, to exclude a person is a violation of the most basic human right, of their civil rights. A lot of times, we go to child care centers that are already established, and they don't want our kids, especially kids that have really difficult behaviors. And I myself have been turned away with Sarah at least once. As soon as I said the A word, which is autism, they kind of like, oh, well, no, we don't have any openings now, So it got really weird, and I'm thinking, well, if this is happening to me, how many other people does this happen to? The pressing need over and over again is help me with this whole special education nightmare. I have no idea what my child's rights are or what I'm supposed to say or do at the IEP table, what's my role. People just don't know, because you don't know until you're thrust into this whole thing. You have no idea what special ed really is. And then, as a parent, you're dealing with the diagnosis, you're dealing with whatever, stems from your child's disability at home, which is already overwhelming, 9 times out of 10, or I could even say 10 out of 10 times. And then suddenly now, you're trying to get things for your child that he or she needs, and you can't.
People with disabilities are, as a group, less educated, less employed, and less well-off economically than their neighbors without disabilities. While these inequities still exist today, things are changing. Thanks to the raising of public awareness and the passage of new laws brought about by the tireless efforts of disability rights leaders and self-advocates at the grassroots level. But there is still a long way to go.
I knew very early on that in order for Molly to get through her life and be a successful individual, that I was going to have to find out everything, including, her right to, what was available for her through her education. I knew I had to find out everything about the whole area of disability, because I knew I had to fight from the get-go. It was evident from the get-go that
we would have to learn how to advocate for her. I felt it was crucial for her to be treated as a person first, not as a disabled child, but as a child. When you think about